Hey, it's Justin Moore from Trending Family, and here are this week's top 5 trending news in digital media, advertising, and influencer marketing. So Adweek published some research from Fuse Media that said that millennials can tell when you're marketing to a stereotype. They found that 77% of millennials are turned off by advertising that portrays their generation using cliches, and that 78% don't like it when ads try too hard to speak their language, and that 89% prefer ads that are simple, straightforward, and that 90% like it when a brand's messages match its actions. A good quote in there was from Jason Miller, who's the EVP of Ad Sales and Integrated Marketing at Fuse, that these findings reinforce that millennials appreciate thoughtful brand communications that tell a compelling story, or they take a stand, or they provide just a thought-provoking perspective. I think a lot of brands are scared to take a stand these days, and especially in today's polarized political climate. And Miller also said that despite the myth that multicultural millennials are ad-averse, the fact is that they relate to brands and ads that are authentic, useful, and entertaining. So how many of you have heard of VSCO? That's VSCO. It is the 5th most used photo and video app for iPhones in the US. Insider had a great article on VSCO and that they've now surpassed 1 million paid users. It's one of the fastest growing subscription-based businesses in the world. The CEO of VSCO recently said that Generation Z is really what's driving their crazy growth. 75% of their users are under 25, and that there's no vanity metrics, right? There's no likes, there's no comments, there's no follower accounts, there's no leaderboards. It's just heavily curated content. I am sure that Facebook has come knocking. They've actually been around since 2011, slowly growing at first until recently it's just really taken off. But it'll be interesting to see if they continue life independent or if they get gobbled up by one of their larger social competitors. So if you've been on Instagram recently, you may have noticed that you can now shop through some brands' stories. Brands like Adidas and Louis Vuitton are some of the first retailers testing it out. Basically, it's a little shopping bag that you can click and purchase things. Karen Tracy was quoted, who is Facebook's head of industry for beauty, fashion, luxury, and retailer, as saying that consumers have a real appetite for seeing brands in IG stories. Of course, it's a little less polished, but they like the format. And of course, Instagram and Facebook know that it's a delicate balance to mix user experience with ROI for advertisers. So they've been purposefully rolling this out very carefully. But consumers are increasingly comfortable with seeing ads in stream. So I think this is going to be a home run for Instagram. So the IAB and PwC released a joint report saying that advertisers spent $313 million on podcast ads in 2017, up 86% from the previous year. It's interesting because it's always been a little tough getting listener data for marketers, but by shifting to direct response advertising, it's pretty easy for them to attribute, okay, well, how many people are redeeming this promo code for this certain podcast host? I'm sure on your favorite podcast, you've heard ads for, a meal delivery kit startup or an online mattress, right? And so Anna Baker, who is EVP of Industry Initiatives at the IAB, said that this trend is only going to continue, right? As marketers get more familiar with this format, as consumers get more familiar with voice and they're purchasing more Amazon Echoes and Google Homes. And that also, the crazy stat, 38% of ad spend was negotiated as an upfront, which was just very surprising to me. So I think this is only going to continue. I think you might see actually a lot of these direct consumer brands diversify some chunks of their spend away from Facebook and Google and throw them towards podcasting. And Unilever has said that they will no longer work with influencers who buy followers. CMO Keith Weed was quoted as saying that the key to improving the situation is threefold. Number 1, cleaning up the influencer ecosystem by removing misleading engagement. Number 2 is making brands and influencers more aware of the use of dishonest practices. And number 3, improving transparency from the social platforms to help brands measure impact. This is only going to increase, right, as influencer marketing becomes a core digital strategy. And so whether brands use technology or other methods to determine if an influencer's following is organic, you need to make these proactive policies and practices rather than being reactive and find out that an influencer that you partnered with has purchased followers.